Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Welcome to Digital Perspective by Markova Creative. We wanted to create a space where marketing minds can come together, hear the philosophies, break down the ideas behind campaigns and what is driving, ROI in all of this marketing spend. And just hear from really established marketing experts so that we can also draw learnings from them and also implement in the work that we do. A little bit about Markova Creative. We're a 30-year-old digital marketing group, and within Markova Creative, we have Markova Creative Limited and ROI Digital. ROI Digital is a performance marketing agency, and Markova Created is a brand engagement agency. We work across the digital marketing spectrum, so think social media management, influencer marketing, media buying, digital media buying, and everything in between. So today's session, we're having Michael Nwayemike, who is the CEO of Markova Creative. He oversees the ROI Digital team and the Markova Creative team, where we have worked with industry leaders such as FMN, Flour Mills Nigeria, Dano, Dulux, and so much more. And under his leadership, the agency has been recognized as Digital Agency of the Year by Marketing Edge, Brand Communicator, and very recently, two of our team members were awarded with Young Lions winners for the Nigerian competition. So this session, Mike will be taking us on his perspective on if virality is overrated, and just give us some insights into what he thinks the long game of brand building should look like. If you have any questions, please keep it to the end of the presentation and you can chime in, or you can type it right now in the chat or the Q&A feature of Zoom. And once we're done with the presentation by Mike, we'll tackle your questions. Thank you. Mike, over to you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can go ahead.
Okay. Hi, Sean. How about you? All right, guys. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael. It's a pleasure to meet some of you who are new, some of you that I know. Hi. Yes, I know that today is a Wednesday. This is 4 p.m. and everybody's looking to wind down. So this will be one of the shortest presentations you have seen. We will try to keep this as distinct as possible. Please, in the event that maybe internet is having a bit of issue here and there, please feel free to point it out to me so that I might have to come, back. We're in Nigeria after all, right? Okay, so I'm going to begin with sharing my screen. Sean, you might have to allow me to share screen. I think that's on your setting side. If that isn't accessible, okay, done. I think you can see that. Let me see. Try that again. Okay, just 1 second, please. Okay. Please confirm that you can see my screen. Great.
Yes, Mike, I can see your screen.
Got it. Sorry, it can get a bit, I'm on full screen, so sometimes it might get difficult to do that. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, before I begin, I'd like to introduce myself a bit more. My name is Michael. I lead the team at Markova Creative, or soon to be Growth Engineering Group, a group of companies focusing largely on two teams, Markova Creative and ROI Digital. We are a 13-year-old digital marketing team, and we have made it our life's mission to help brands to win with digital, right? We help with strategy, we help with a bit of truth telling. We help with campaign and marketing execution. We help with some advisory services from time to time. And this is something that we really love. And we hope to be able to do for a long time. All right, so I will start. Before I begin, I'd like to start with a big disclaimer. I do not come to you as an expert in any way, shape, or form. I am smart enough to understand that this digital landscape changes every day, week, month, and year. And I come to you as a peer. My philosophies and perspectives are entirely my own. And what I want to work with you is what I believe is something that I have been able to garner over the years based on experiences of my team, my peers, and a lot of conversations over the last 5 years. Okay? Okay. From time to time, Sean, you might have to confirm for me by audio because, like I said, it's a full screen. Yes?
No problem.
Got it. Okay, so let's begin. So, first question, is virality overrated? Okay, everybody who is a marketer and their sibling is looking to launch the next viral campaign. And the question is virality overrated? The answer, or my answer at least, is yes. Okay, we're done. Thank you so much for your time. However, for those of us who want us to keep talking, I will just give a bit of a background, okay, if that's all right. Okay, let's begin with the advent of social media. Social media, as we know it, started in the early 2000s. Digital has started a few years before that, probably roughly about a decade with paid search and display advertising, a bit of SMS, a bit of social, a bit of email marketing. But in the early 2000s, social media began. And when it began, people realized that consumers for the first time became their own mouthpiece. There was no gatekeeping of information, and consumers could actually share opinions on multiple formats about a variety of things that mattered to them. And then brands knew, or rather discovered pretty early, that they could find a way to embed their brands into day-to-day conversations. And by doing that, consumers will begin to share pieces of brand information, usually as useful content, to their friends and families or people who will find it interesting. So whether it was the era of memes or the era of videos that came short after, where people could share to people so people could laugh, the point essentially was that brands found a way of trying to inject themselves into this conversation, and it became quite successful. Now, for brands, for the first mover advantage that it gave brands was that it gave brands the ability to be able to reach, tens of thousands, millions of people, if possible, without spending significantly more. And a couple of content creators, or it wasn't really called that back in the day, but they realized that by trying to optimize their content to be natively suited to the content that was being shared on social platforms, they could actually, increase eyeballs on those content pieces. People could share it a bit more, especially if they had to, use triggers such as humor, use triggers such as, the fear of missing out to kind of drive a bit of organic resonance. And so what happened eventually was people will develop content and realize that overnight, tens of thousands of people will see that piece of content. It was largely, one-off, but the benefits were very strong. And as a result, a couple of brands who really dove deep into it early enough kind of became quite successful, right? Gymshark, for example, took off. Gymshark, as I know, it did not exist before COVID-19. And Gymshark is a billion-dollar business today. Warby Parker came, had the claim to fame, from their availability to build, visuals where people could actually test virtually what their face would look like, right, with the different glasses, right? And that became viral. GoPro appealed to the X-rated, not X-rated actually, what's it called? The outdoorsy crowd, right? The exports. And we think that that was a big contributor to GoPro's explosion. Spotify, obviously, by connecting people to the songs that they know and love, they exploded heavily. Zappos, on the other hand, eventually was acquired by what's it called now? Amazon, right? It was one of the biggest most customer-centric companies, to the point that Amazon realized that we had to acquire the business. It was $1 billion acquisition. In our local environment, obviously, we have seen the rise of child deck from a largely an unknown name to a household name in pretty much every organization. PiggyVest, obviously, PiggyVest and Cowrywise, that duo kind of began Nigeria's large entry into savings and investment slash loans in a more within that specific young millennial into Gen Z audience. Obviously, everybody here knows Jumia. Everybody has seen one or two viral videos from InDrive, and Domino's particularly used a lot of UGC that went viral to be able to go explode heavily. So the major thing here was, after these few case studies of success stories, everybody ran to digital, ran to social, and with the expectation that the moment they run to social, they will get everybody to see their ads and get as much virality, and that virality will generate the bulk of their growth, right? Now, there's a statement that a notable person in digital marketing business, Gary Vaynerchuk, some of you know him a bit, that he's known for popularizing, which is marketers ruin everything. And so over that period of time, well over just under $1 trillion has been spent on social media advertising since 2017. But what happened has been a couple of trends due to overexposure of viral or seemingly viral content. Consumers changed. They got inundated with thousands and tens of thousands of branded content that are published every day. It didn't matter how witty they were. It didn't matter how creative or humorous they were. When you watch 20 funny videos, you will get tired at some point in time. And then, expectantly, engagement began to drop as well. Second, please. So these brands understood that what was working the previous years was slowly beginning to reduce in effectiveness. And what did they do? They tried to find, alternative lifts or sources of lift of engagement by either sponsoring big events, or partnering with very strong partners, very strong influencers and social creators. And the goal was to try to, tap into their audiences and tap into the relationship that they were able to generate with their audience by producing super engaging content. And brands, and for a while it kind of worked, because brands were able to, take up that lift a little bit more. And, that became the era, starting from, in our market, it started from Twitter and then moved a lot into Instagram. And obviously we can see what brands have been doing with influencers. Influencers are pretty much an industry at this point in time. Okay. Now, what are we seeing, or what have we seen in the last, the last year or two? Content creation is beginning to hit a plateau as well. For one, there's becoming an oversaturation of the market. Secondly, content creators have kind of realized that they have become way more influential, right, in perception forming. At least that is what they believe at the moment. And as a result, they have become more and more expensive, less and less effective. And so brands, if an influencer, you are paying an influencer 2 million naira to do a piece of content for you, maybe you might be able to rationalize it. But before long, when that number goes from 2 million to 20 million, and from 20 million to 45 million, it becomes increasingly harder to guarantee a return on investment. Remember, as a marketer, your job is to try to generate as strong as you can, a return on your current investment. And that is what we have started to see in the recent history, in the Houston Times, if you will, right? In addition to all of that, obviously, social platforms, seeing that the organic engagement is going down, in a bid to try to keep, because if you really look at it, social platforms like Meta and X, their job is to keep you on their pages for as long as possible, right? And so just a simple Pareto analysis will say, what pieces are people watching, or are people most engaged with? And they say deprioritizing content pieces that had the lowest engagement. And the truth of the matter is, no matter how we want to look at it, branded content is usually characterized with lower organic engagement than other non-organic, non-promotional pieces. And so what social platforms started to do is I started to, for people, for brands who want to have a strong presence in the eyes of the audience, have had to pay, more and more. At some point in time, if you look at it from 5, 10 years ago, if you had to amplify some social content, with $5, $10, you had hit everybody. Today, you are looking at minimum of between, 10 times to 15 times that. So, and this continues. Organic reach is as close to zero as possible, particularly with the major conventional social platforms that we are used to, right? With newer platforms, we still have a bit of organic reach and organic engagement. However, if you are not an influencer publishing some skits, if you are publishing branded content, I think it is safe to say that your organic engagement and your organic reach will need a little bit of amplification via paid media. So, however, even in our day-to-day interactions with brands, we still see that brands have not caught up. They still build plans on their marketing and expect for virality and think of their campaigns as non-successful or not successful if their campaigns or their content doesn't go viral. Now, occasionally, we still see a few successes. So some content pieces are successful, but the truth of the matter is that it gets harder and harder to repeat. It gets harder and harder to predict because virality, they will say, virality is built on a small stool of uncertainty, right? It's not every time that your content piece, however well you plan it or organize it, it's not always that your content will hit message to market fit at the right time that would encourage social sharing. So the truth of the matter is that it has been met with a lot of mixed results. And as a result, we think there's a better way. Now, the amount of times that I have seen briefs or I have been briefed by brands or marketing teams in general telling us, you know what, we want this thing to go viral. We want people that will engage with our content, that will show interest, that will buy our product. And the campaign is a 3-month campaign. If I was given a dime for every single time that I was given this as a brief, I will be rich off the royalties. However, I think that marketing is going back to old time and small town rules. I think that the goal of building relationships one to another, right, consistently over time is, in my opinion, the way to go. And I think marketing is going back there. As an agency, we do try to tell our brands to kind of play down on the expectation around viral marketing. And it stems from this philosophy that we have within the agency. We say it pretty often. And this truth that we have come to understand is the following, that people, and I didn't use the word consumers, I used the word people. People will buy when they are ready, not when you are ready. It means that when I decide that I'm going to be a customer, or I decide that I'm going to buy again, or I decide I'm going to try the product out, it's not when you manipulate or try to persuade or try to evoke a sense of me needing to buy the product. And I think that marketing that respects the consumer or the person or the individual's ability to make that decision when they're ready, I believe is the marketing that is primed for 2025 and beyond. Okay, now a couple of weeks ago, and I think I shared this with my team a few days ago, Google released this research called the messy middle. Now, for all of us who are marketers, we know what the purchase funnel is. Very important to note that the purchase funnel is not exactly a standardized funnel. It is a framework. It is a way of thinking about marketing and how it is received. So please understand that so a lot of the times, consumers have very different ways of interacting with products. But so far, this has been the most accepted way of thinking about how people interact with marketing messages. Now, what Google is talking about is the concept of the messy middle, which talks about the fact that people get stuck in the middle. Obviously, to reiterate, remember the whole awareness, interest, consideration, action, right? Now, towards the middle of the funnels, which is around the interest and the considerations phase, people can stay there for an entire lifetime. And it is only when they feel that they are ready that they will make the action decision. And our marketing needs to now reflect and trust people's ability to make good decisions for themselves, right? By saying, one, we are ready whenever you choose to make that decision. However, here's another piece of information that can help you make a more informed decision. And I think that majority of our marketing needs to be built with this in mind. So what this means for the marketer is that marketing isn't manipulation. Marketing is not persuasion. Marketing should be what's it called? Understood today as an act of love. And marketing today takes time. It takes time to build strong relationships. Think of marketing today as building friendships. You don't walk into one session with people and turn them into your best friend. It takes time. And I think that that is the one underrated element that marketers around the world struggle with. The ability to want to convince and convert people in one fell swoop. If you understand that the buyer will buy when they're ready, not when you are ready to sell, and you are prepared to stay for as long as it takes for them to make that decision, and they are almost guilted, so to speak, based on the fact that you've given them a lot of ways to use the product, means to use the product, opportunities to try out the product. And so that love will breed a sense of reciprocity, and it does take time to build those sets of relationships. So this is what I believe is the holy grail for marketing going forward. I really do believe that a continuous practice of showing love to your people and to your prospects is the one thing that we know that consumers or people will reciprocate. And so the idea is that if we continuously put out content and initiatives that adds value to their lives for as long as it will take to make them a customer or a loyalist, I believe that that is the direction. However, it is very difficult to do. It is very difficult to do because I do understand that businesses have a priority to generate an ROI, right? However, when you understand the fact that the average consumer is looking at close to 1,500 marketing messages every single day, and the decisions that I have to make, there would always be a winner and there will always be a loser. I would almost always defer to the brand who doesn't think of me as a consumer or somebody that they want to convert. Instead, thinks of me as an individual with wants, needs, and aspirations, and is able to kind of give me either a good product and communication that shows me that they are in my corner, right? I think that that is a reciprocity that I will be able to give by buying the product and buying the product, over and over again. Please note this. I mentioned again, this is an opinion that we have, held on to for a couple of years. It has been quite successful for us. It can be a bit counterintuitive, but it is something that we stand by. Okay, remember we call it Digital Peers-Pective because it is a point of view that we hold at this point in time. Okay, now for you to be able to drive digital dominance, knowing fully well that the marketplace is as saturated as possible with marketing messages, you either outspend, you either outthink, or you outlast. Now, obviously, we know the outspending the competition, right? Jumia, Konga, Temu, these are guys who came in with loaded budgets and blew competitors out of the water by simply outspending them. Now, I'm sure that for most of you marketers, it's not exactly feasible. If you don't have money, chances are that we do not have unlimited spend. In terms of creativity, nobody has the monopoly of creativity. You might come out with a good piece of content today. It does not mean that you have all it takes to come up with the absolute best content, right? Better than everybody in the category or in your category on a continuous basis. I don't think that is feasible or practical. However, what I think is possible, however hard it is you stay until the consumer/customer/person is prepared to try, buy again, and stay loyal. And I think that that's the direction. So the idea is show love, take time. Show love and take time. So this is what we call our own small holy grail, right? One message, don't try to sell multiple things per time. One core message focused on one avatar, that is one target audience / target persona. Now you can touch them across multiple platforms. You can touch them a couple of times, but you can touch them over a long period of time. I believe that if you are able to build a singular message, talking to a singular persona, leveraging multiple platforms, touching them a good number of times over a 3 to 5 year period, you should be able, obviously within good reason, of course. Sometimes there are act of God scenarios, but you stand as good a chance as anybody to drive digital dominance in your industry without having to outspend everybody or even outthink everybody for that matter. So this is if you had to take away something from our presentation in a nutshell, this is pretty much what we recommend. Why do we think we need to do this? We think that good relationships take time to build, take time to strengthen, take time to nurture. And we think that even if you have an averagely decent message, averagely decent media, average decent budget, but if you deploy it over a considerable amount of time, you will get to your destination. So start to think. I think it is about time for brands to start thinking about building their brands consistently and slowly. I think gone are the days. Now, if virality happens, it happens. But the idea is to try to touch each life even if you're going to touch one person per time, do that over a period of time. Of course, we know that as marketers, we want to touch as many people as possible. But the goal here, and I think the objective for this talk, is to try to get marketers to reduce the conversation they have on reach all the time. Sometimes we think that brand love, customer lifetime value, and a strong customer relationship is just as good as any reach you have. And personally, it's a standpoint I have that I would rather have 100 people who love me than 10,000 who kind of know me. Please note this. The conversation that I'm putting here, please feel free to disagree with. I certainly can understand that it is a counterintuitive position. However, whenever we have worked with brands to try to build and deepen brand love, we have seen that we've gotten the reach we wanted, but it has come from a very authentic place. So you want to build virality, if you can, by not chasing virality. Instead, by building things that touch the heartstrings and essentially love your customers into loving you back. So that is the concept, pretty much. Give your initiatives time as well. Take the time to build and expect that people will take their time, and whenever it is they are ready. If they never do, that's okay too. But we have to understand that this is the new way, or this is our new way of building, connections at scale that lasts. So thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, any arguments, because I like that too, please feel free to ask, and let's get this conversation going.
Thank you so much, Mike. That was truly insightful. Thank you for sharing your digital perspective on virality. I have a question, but I just want to throw it out to the audience that if you have any question, please drop it in the chat or raise up your hand and the floor will be open to you. But I'm going to start with my own question. So you've spoken a lot on how virality is not sustainable and what we should be building is a long-term, brand game. And we have clients that, the KPI is often never 3 to 5 years KPI. It's always like in the next month, in the next 3 months, I want to see this. Do you get? And how would you say, are there smarter ways to leverage virality? Is there a middle ground? Like, okay, don't overdose on chasing virality. Instead, maybe this is a smarter way to do it. For example, Nike is always going viral every market day. They have like really amazing campaigns. So are there smarter ways to, game this virality without overdosing on it? At least once a year, let's go viral. What do you think?
Look, see, everybody loves virality, to be honest with you, right? As marketers, it gives us it allows us to make great leaps. All right, so I'm going to answer the question in two. I'm going to give you the political answer, and I'm going to give you my
Yeah.
answer, okay? The political answer is, of course, you don't have 3 years to tell your brand. I think, though, that the concept of customer lifetime value, concept of brand love, are metrics, in my opinion, that we need to start talking to brands about and start saying, look, guys, these are metrics that you should start looking at. At least they should be just as important as your reach and your virality, right? The truth of the matter is that brands are not going to get there just yet. You see, we're in a very unique position, right? Sean, we're in a very unique position because we get to work with multiple brands. It's very easy for us to see learnings here and take to this one and see some more traction and take to this one and see more tractions. But a lot of the times, a lot of our brands or brands in general don't exactly have that not expertise, that the luxury, if you will, of cross brand learnings, right? So I don't expect that when we bring these conversations up that they will take it just yet. Okay, they've got ROI metrics and KPIs to meet. So while you are doing this, the goal is to try to ask these brands to embed deeper and higher quality metrics into their marketing process / plan / strategy, right? Can we not focus as much on reach, and can we focus on a little bit more deepening the relationship with the customers or consumers in this particular case? Okay, that's my political answer. My real answer is that I don't believe in middle grounds. So please understand, my real answer is what I'll be talking about internally, right? I will not say it outside. There's a statement we have in the agency: beware the Frankenstein monster. If you are going to focus on reach, then you focus on reach. But if you're going to move to a different direction, I think that the era is for brands to be bold and fearless. The whole concept of marketing is to differentiate, right? Zig when the world zagged. So the point is that I feel that every brand is trying to get everything. Every major brand that I know is trying to play in the middle ground space. Let's get a bit of this and a bit of this and a bit of this. And I don't think at the end of the day, the results we get is the best of the worst of the best. We're really never going in a particular direction. Now, you mentioned the statement of Nike.
Yes.
Nike did not, I repeat. Okay, please don't understand. I don't work for Nike, but I can stake a bit of my reputation, which is not very much, by the way, so take it with a grain of salt. I can stake a bit of my reputation that Nike was not trying to be viral. Nike put out pieces of content that resonated with people. A couple of years ago, the Just Do It, I remember reading a lot about the Just Do It back in the day when it was kind of launched, and you realized that it was an act of love. They wanted to motivate people who were having problems running. Remember, Nike used to be the ultimate running shoe back in the day. But for some of us who are not gym rats, you find the motivation today, you lose motivation tomorrow. You find motivation next tomorrow, you lose motivation the next day. And they were trying to motivate their runner audience. Don't wait for when you are ready. Don't think about it, just do it. It was a piece of content that they saw about a persona they were very interested in. And they put out that piece of content. Now it went viral. And they decided to stay on it, right? However, it did not come with that in mind. All right? To the best of my knowledge, this is a documentation that I read a couple of years ago. But that is something I can get along with. I think for the longest times, I have to be honest, we are brand people. We have been a bit pretentious. Okay? Let's be real with ourselves. You don't eat chocolates and you don't drink Red Bull and get wings. Nobody's doing that. I get the conversation, but I think that for a while, in an attempt to emotionally charge our audience sometimes, or to try to enter the emotional headspace of our audience, we got very unpretentious, right? We started to literally lie, and consumers knew we were lying, but they just took it like, okay, this person is saying something different from everybody else is saying. And I think that we have gone too far. We've gone too far. Uncle Ahmed, you're raising your hand. I hear you.
Yes, Hamed has a question. But before we go to Hamed's question, please, Spark has a question. If reach, in your opinion, isn't a metric to hitch your wagon to, what metrics do you hold dear that sets off the spark for you to know that you have locked into your avatar?
So, simplistic answer is engagement. But a deeper answer is qualitative engagement. Now, personally, engagements, everybody will look at engagement in terms of, okay, I put out a piece of content and I got, 8,000 likes. So it means that my content is hitting a bit of a spot, right? At least it's hitting the interest spot. However, if I put out a piece of content and I got 2 DMs saying, this thing touched me. Marketers, a lot of the times, we don't think that is a win, right? But the truth of the matter, in my opinion, is that by touching that person's heartstrings, that person will remember you for years and years and years to come. And we need to do a little bit more of qualitative engagement, because everybody and their sibling is really trying to appeal to everybody. Now, one of the best campaigns, at the risk of, if there's any of my clients here, I apologize in advance. And in fact, I'm not even going to mention the name, but I will go as far as in the last 10 years, my best campaign is a Mother's Day campaign we did called For Mom's Gone. Remembering itself is making me almost tear up. Right? What we saw, the messages we saw, just said, come, are we an agency or are we a ministry? Right? Are we a church or are we an agency? Because people were talking. We got brand guys to develop content for us. The brand guys were crying. Right? I'm sorry, you can't convince me otherwise. What we have done, if you like, let us have 1 million views. I don't care. There's 81 people who have been made to think about their mom who's no longer with them. Right? And for me, that makes the most difference. And I think if we do that 2 years in, 3 years in, 4 years in, 5 years in, we will go a much farther way as brands than us trying to appeal to everyone. So that's my 2 cents, please. Remember, perspective, I did not come and give you textbook advice. It's how I see the world.
Thank you very much, Mike, for that. It reminds me of how, is it Dove? Dove is very particular about their audience. They want them to have great self-esteem. They want them to see beauty, and not in a harmful way, but build their confidence in their own unique beauty. Thank you very much. So Hamed has a question. Victor will come to you. Let's go to Hamed's question. How do you convince leadership or investors to stay the course with a long game brand strategy? Of course, they are not going to be hearing, let's wait 3 to 5 years to see the ROI on this campaign. They want it now. So how do you convince them, Mike?
Okay, if everybody's asking for advice on how we can help you people's relationship with your C-suite, I'm not sure I have all the answers to it, but this is a very valid question. I think you want to have, okay, Shimon, we have this conversation all the time where I say it's always better to fight with people at the beginning than to fight at the end, right? I think that early and often you want to reiterate that the strategy that works the best is the long-term strategy. What other chances do you have? Do we want to, if we really want to build a brand that we are proud of, we have to travel the road less traveled. We have to zig when the world doesn't. So I would start by building a business case. Of course, it's not going to be very easy because, not everybody has patient money, especially in this economy. So I certainly can understand that you are not going to walk into the C-suite and just tell them this is what is going to happen. I think you're going to have to work You know, every single quarter or every single half year that you add a bit of depth, right? Customer depth to your strategy is a win. And hopefully, 3 years in of slowly creeping in, I think that C-suite will get a bit of the message. However, I think that you should start with expectation management early and reiterate that this is the North Star, right? From time to time, you will run a campaign by month 4. You know, these guys are saying they are not seeing what they were supposed to see, and we have to continuously reiterate it. Sometimes you'll be successful, sometimes you will not be. So what I can advise to you is it's going to work 50%, to be honest with you, and that is my most optimistic thing. However, the second part is, if you are going to tell me to wait, you better not spend my money. You better not waste it. So if you are going to tell management to take their time, because we want to focus less on how many people we reach and more on the quality of interactions we have with people, you better not waste that money. Right? I think that if the C-suite has put you in there to make decisions on behalf of them, and they realize that your body, soul, and spirit and actions is going directly in line with that, now they might decide and change direction eventually, but the truth of the matter is that they will know that this is what you believe in. Okay? For those of us who are agency people, I know it's even more difficult for us because we're in the service business. But the truth of the matter is this: if you understand that you are working for the brand, and you know in your heart of heart that this is what is going to give the brand the 10x growth they are looking for, right? Stay the course. A little bit of stubbornness is needed. Except you don't believe in it, right? Except you don't believe in it. And then to that effect, I'll say do not bring it up if you don't believe in it. I think that every single time we have focused much less on how many people we reached, and we focused on, okay, I'll give you an example. BTL as a general thing, what's it called, field, right? It's not focused on scales into the millions. It focuses a little bit on the depth of interactions, at least a lot more than other forms of media, right? TTL and ATL. And I think that we can borrow a little bit from them. Okay? We need to find ways to do this thing. So my answer again is, guys, we need to build as close as we can to a proper business case. We need to reiterate it early and often, and we need to have a very surgical outlook in terms of how our budgets are being dispersed. So it might not be the solution to everything, but this is what I think at the moment.
Okay, thank you. So just to reiterate, Michael said, when you're managing, when you're speaking to your C-suite leaders on, your 3-year plan, you need to manage expectations early on. Don't sell too many dreams, telling them, before the end of the week, we're going to have 1 million this, 1 million that. And also be judicious with your marketing budget so they are not wary of, your intentions. So thank you very much for that. Medara says, if virality isn't the goal, what should marketers be measuring? I think you already touched on this actually, on how brand love, engagement, quality of engagement should be what we are measuring. Okay, Victor, you're still here. Please speak. You can unmute your mic. Let's hear from you.
Hello, Mike.
Hi, Victor.
This was insightful. This is insightful, really.
Thanks, man.
Okay, Mike. If we know our ICP and our avatar very, very well, we know them in and out, can we intentionally create a viral campaign targeted at them? Can we?
So this is it, right? First and foremost, to a decent extent, we might be able to do that, right? Knowledge of your ICP obviously gives you an advantage in finding out what will be their emotional trigger, right? And you might be able to do that. Now, the question is, how predictable can you be with that? I'm not so sure. How repeatable can you be with that? I'm not so sure. My question here would be, in my opinion, no. And I think that is the summation of my entire presentation / mini thesis here is, if I know my ICP this much, why am I not focusing on what is going to actually add value to their lives tomorrow? Why am I trying to figure out what will make them trend my brand today? That is my question. That is the question I'm asking. So it's not that we cannot do it or we cannot at least try. Of course, of course. Every form of referred engagement, right, that you did not pay for is helpful to your brand. I'll give you that. But you see, if we start focusing on the depth of interactions a little bit more, in the short term, we will not have those ego gratifying metrics. 100 million views, 200,000 engagements. But I cannot tell you that if we touch, I don't know, 120 people deeply, 7 months after this interaction, particularly when the industry, conversations about the industry are being mentioned, they will remember us. And that, in my opinion, is every marketer's dream. So my question now is, now please understand, the homework is on us. We're going to have to figure out what can we do to actually help their lives. It doesn't necessarily mean we are going to put money in their hands, although sometimes that is needed. Sometimes it is motivation. Sometimes it is building tools and widgets that helps to be what's it called, their growth partners. Sometimes it is sharing success stories of people who have persevered and have gone through the solution, the problems that this persona is particularly identifying with. Sometimes it is, okay, I know things are tough, but let me make you laugh, right? It could be that. But the idea, so the concept of value is quite varied, okay? But the idea is, if it's coming from a place of, I want to ensure that this time that I'm taking from you to give you this branded message is not wasted in your eye, right? And for that to happen, I have to do something that when you feel it, you will feel it in your heart and you say, you know what, these guys went deep, even though it means that only 30 people are going to see it. I think when that shift is one that we need to start making little by little. It's a process. I'm not going to lie. It's taking me a few years to get here, and I will keep talking to my friends and peers and colleagues every time I see them to kind of make the switch little by little. But yes, those are my 2 cents.
Thank you so much, Michael. Does anyone have any other question? Any other question? I think we would wait for 1 or 2 minutes. If there are no more questions, then we can end the session.
Yeah, I think someone just raised that. I think someone just raised.
Okay. Philomena, please, let's hear from you. Unmute yourself.
Hi, Mike. Good afternoon. Okay.
Hello.
Based off answering Victor's question and said that if we know our avatar, instead of focusing on virality, let's touch their lives. Take Coca-Cola Share Coke campaign, for instance. When they replace their logo with popular names, popular names, terms of endearment, they tapped into the emotional aspect of personalization and friendship.
Brilliant. Yes.
By doing so, they created like a deeper emotional connection with consumers, associating their products with feelings of friendship, belonging, and sharing. And it still went viral. So I don't think it's an either or. We can go viral and still touch our consumers, right?
That's a brilliant summation, actually. So let me explain my 2 cents on it. I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I've also seen a little bit of background on that campaign. There were a couple of key consumer insights that drove that campaign. The word or the name everybody loves the most is their own name. It gives you a sense of ownership. It gives you a sense of control. And more importantly, it gives you a sense of personalization. Okay? And so in a bid to want to celebrate and extol the virtues of sharing, right? Let me give you this thing, or let me share with you this thing of mine. The point, in my opinion, is maybe or maybe not they were trying to make it viral, right? Can I ask another question? You know what? Let us assume that the plan was to make it viral and they succeeded, right? Can you tell me another campaign from Coke that has gone just as viral? How repeatable has that been? They have been on the Share a Coke messaging for the last few years. And you and I can agree that that one time that he went and became incredibly viral across the world, once he plateaued, he never went anywhere near there again. Right? So this is it. There are campaigns that people have done in an act to try to show real love or to try to add value, and they have gone viral. So my summation has always been, show love to consumers. If it goes viral, so be it. But if it doesn't, it's not a failure. That's the whole point I am making. The virality should be a byproduct if it ever happens. It should not be the goal. Right? So I certainly can hear you that marketers generally love it. See, look, it's the holy grail, right? It's the ultimate silver bullet. I do one campaign, 10 million people see it. Before you know it, it becomes an international case study. Everybody loves that. It's not like everybody doesn't love it, but I think that we are going back to small town rules anymore. Because every brand is highly involved in trying to build interactions that will go viral. And at some point in time, everybody has gotten inundated. And I think it's time for us to explore a counterintuitive direction or a new direction. So, my opinion.
Thank you very much, Mike. I hear you. Phil, thank you so much for your contribution and your perspective. Medara, your hand is up. Do you want to ask a question?
Yes, I wanted to ask a question.
Please, the floor is yours.
Okay, when Mike, good evening, Mike, good evening, everyone.
Hi, Medara.
When you were presenting, I think I heard you say something about like the buyers, they would buy when they are ready, the consumers would buy when they're ready. So we should, our goal is not to like force their hand or something. So I was my question is, isn't that the whole point of marketing? Because like, yeah, I'm ready to sell something now, right? I'm putting it out there for everyone to see, and I want you to buy. So like me going on to market my products is like me, I'm trying to get you, my goal is to get you to buy these products. And should I be really concerned in whether you want it or not?
See, that's a fair question to ask. All right, so I'm going to ask you this question, Mr. Medara. Have you ever bought something and regretted your purchase?
Yes.
Good. If you were the person who's selling it, long term, if you sold to 80 people who bought it and 30 days after buying it, they did not think that was the right decision, do you think you will get them to buy from you again? What are the odds, rather? So the whole idea is to prevent this thing we call buyer's remorse. People love to buy, but nobody wants to be sold. Nobody wants to be pressured or persuaded or manipulated into making a decision until they're ready. Now, occasionally with certain psychological triggers and certain hacks, some neuroscientific, findings, you might be able to put certain things, right? For those of us who are copywriter people, there are certain words that trigger certain feelings. We might be able to move people to certain things, but my summation right now is to say, look, can we stop trying to trick people? Because that's what it is, regardless of what we talk about. Can we stop trying to trick people into buying and trying to show this product as a hand-in-glove fit for this persona and their needs? And if it is only 20 people in our target market that this is a fantastic solution for, then our job is done. Instead of trying to force it to appeal to 2 million people, knowing fully well only 2,000 people inside of the 2 million are the people who really need the service. So essentially, it's adding a bit of conscience to our marketing. That is my perspective. So please feel free to disagree till thy kingdom come. And I understand it because there are pros and cons. It's not a rule of thumb. I have just come to realize that every time we have done this, a lot of times we've seen the reach we wanted. right? But it was something that, you know. So anyways, you get my message. I hope this helps.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you everyone that joined in, and thank you to everyone that, you know, shared their own perspective also. I believe there are no more questions, and well, we've almost run out of time. So thank you everyone for joining the very first session for Digital Peers-Pective by Markova Creative. This will be a monthly webinar, and we hope to see you all in the next session next month. We'll be sharing the recording from this session and the deck. So keep an eye in your inbox for our mail. Thank you all for joining. I think we can now end the session.
Thanks so much, guys. It's a pleasure to meet you guys.
Thank you so much.